Welcome to the Iron Breed podcast. This is Austin, and here with me again today is Gerard.
What's going on, everyone?
So, today we are going to talk about passions outside of the weight room, all of our passions that we have. So, it's interesting because we all have different things that we're interested in. Like, I like sports and music and lifting, and you may like not sports, not music, and not lifting. And that's totally okay. We all have our own things that we're into. Uh, so, that's what makes it really interesting. But we're going to talk about the difference of like passions, like healthy passions, what makes a passion unhealthy, what makes it healthy, what happens when you lose those passions, getting back to those passions that you've lost, and developing new passions and just kind of getting into new more stuff. And I think this is super relevant now because of what we're dealing with the coronavirus situation, is that a lot of us lifting, chances are if you're listening to this podcast, lifting is probably some form of like really important passion to you to some level. And now, granted, we're recording this weeks in advance, so we don't actually know when this releases what the current state will be. So gyms might be open by that point in time, but they might not be. So I'm just going to assume that they're not, like they haven't been for the last 2 months. And so for a lot of us that we don't, we have these huge passions, with lifting being one of them. When the gym like gets removed like this, like it really makes you wonder, like, damn, what do you do outside of that? And that's where these having these other passions come in. I will say though, like one of the coolest things, not that like gyms being closed is cool, because it is not. I hate it, but I understand. Um, One of the coolest things that I've seen out of all of this though, Gerard, I don't know if you feel the same way, but seeing how creative everybody has gotten. I mean, there's people that I like know from the gyms that I train at that have built their own like power rack out of like wood and like cement, and
Yeah.
that's dedication. Like, I thought I was dedicated, and then I see some stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm not. I'm not on that level of dedication, but that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that.
No, definitely. I think that's one beautiful thing that we have been able to see with just, the limited resources of, weight rooms being closed is that, people are able to take these passions for fitness and, get creative and actually, rather than just, falling away from them and like maybe slipping down into bad habits, they're being mindful. They're trying to do something with what they've got. And I know personally myself, I've had to get real creative with my at-home workouts. And utilizing just like what I can as like textbooks and stuff for weights, or like to put my heels up on for elevated squats, and at home pull-up bars, and just there's always something that you can do, especially when you have a passion for it. And so real quick, I'd love to just read off, the definition of passion is a strong feeling or emotion. And so
Mm.
that speaks so true. I mean, you can be passionate about so many different things, but like it's interesting when you have initial start, a birth of a passion.
Oh yeah,
You
nothing
oh
better than that.
yeah,
That first, like, once you get into something, it's then like that passion starts dying off when shit either starts getting hard, or it just gets really monotonous and it's not as enjoyable anymore. So that's why when you see people that are like doing the same things year after year and they're still passionate about it, you're like, damn, that's sick. Because I realize like that shit fades real fast. So if you're still doing it because you love it, like you really love that shit, and that's great.
exactly. And I think that's so much of, what goes into a passion is what do you get out of it? What joy does it bring you? What intrinsic value does it bring out of you? And so it's interesting how for me a lot of times a passion that I've had, oftentimes when it may feel lost, it actually gets birthed into another. So that's what sports was for me. When I was, growing up, I did judo. That was something my dad did, and we got into the club, and that was like kind of one of my major first sports I did. Be on the mat, learning the different throws and techniques. And our club got canceled, unfortunately. It was a real big bummer. But what did that do? it opened my eyes up to wrestling. So then I wrestled in high school, and that became a new passion, and that birthed into, wanting to get into strength training because we neglected strength training and wrestling. And what did that turn into? Powerlifting. And powerlifting becomes this huge passion. We'll even get into unhealthy passions or healthy passions that become unhealthy passions. And so what happens now? I didn't do that much cardiovascular training, so now I'm kind of into that outside of powerlifting. But we're gonna get into some ones as well that aren't directly fitness related, because you do need recovery time. You need things that are going to keep you interested outside of just training. And so, Austin, tell me about some of the ones you do, because some people might know, Austin is quite the musician and is becoming one.
Yeah, I do a lot. I think it actually like people would be surprised at like how much stuff I do. I know a lot of times I get comments from people like, "How do you do all that?" And it's like, I don't know. Like I just do it, right? Like, but so some of the things that I'm passionate about, obviously, like I'm passionate about lifting. That shows if you've followed me on Instagram or know me, you know that I've become the lifting guy for a little bit now. But I'm also super passionate about music, and I always have been. I mean, ever since I was like 16, 15, you would catch me driving to metal shows. I mean, back if anybody knew me in high school and you're listening to this, like you remember when I drove the minivan and almost like literally every other week we would pack that minivan up and drive down to Lancaster or up to Allentown for a metal show. Like I was just always you could always find me that. I probably had like enough band shirts to make it an entire month with everything. I was just obsessed with it. I, started teaching myself how to play guitar, and I got really into it. Played in like garage band style stuff in like high school, but then I got to college, and I wasn't really like lifting at the time. Like I was super into sports and my music, but then like you go to college and you can't really be like playing electric guitar as the metalhead you are. I had a half stack. So for you guys that don't know, it's like a 4x12 cab with speakers and then an amp head, and that shit was loud. I can't take that to college. No way. I can't play that in the dorms. So I go to college and like that passion kind of died just because I didn't really have the means to be able to play the way that I wanted to play. And for me, it just wasn't interesting because like I still, even to this day, if I can't like get the guitar tones or sounds that I want, my desire to play is greatly diminished because it's not to the way that I want it or like the sound or the way that I want to hear it. My sound doesn't sound that way. So like it just that's what happened with me when I got to college. So like music, I mean, I'm still super had been still super passionate about it, but I just wasn't playing it. And I missed it, but it just didn't logically make a lot of sense. And then it got to a point in time where I actually sold a lot of like almost everything I own except for one guitar to help pay for like college stuff. And like not a day goes by that I do not regret that one a little bit. Because I had a lot of equipment and but then I really started getting into lifting and it transitioned into so now all this passion, got transitioned into lifting. And so then I get super into the lifting, and then I start getting, I mean, if you listen to the nutrition episode from last week, you learn how I get into supplements, with supplements being from the DMAA and all that. I took a fat burner one time in college and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I was like, I want to learn all about it. And I'm like, when I want to learn something, I don't just like, oh, let me just go read a Wikipedia link and like learn it. I like I need to learn everything there is to learn. So I get like super obsessed with learning about things. So I guess I'm also passionate about learning too, right? But it's just one of those things that it just snowballed into this other huge level. And like I'm still passionate about subs. Like I love subs. I love making subs. It's like cool. Supplements I think are great, but they're not everything. Neither is lifting. So it's just everything just kind of snowball through to like one thing. It was almost like one thing falls out of my life. I mean, I've always been passionate about sports. Like I'm a huge baseball fan. Like if anybody me, I love the Mets, and like I don't like that I like the Mets sometimes because they're heartbreakers, but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. I mean, like I'm ironically wearing an Orioles hat, but it's because I live in Baltimore. Don't judge me. But
Yeah.
like I love the Mets. Like I'm super passionate about baseball, like hockey, football, like super passionate about it. And it's just all these different outlets of different things that I enjoy that add extra value to my life in some way, shape, or form. But I don't identify each one of them or any one particular of them as of like making up my entire value of my life.
Ooh, I think that's it's super important because that kind of goes into when a healthy passion becomes an unhealthy passion,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's totally it. Like when you have something that you are so consumed with, you identify with, that is your entire, being. Which for me personally, that became powerlifting at one point. And then what happens the second it's taken away, or you don't feel like you're able to perform it or do it at its highest value? Bang, now you start devaluing yourself and you no longer have a passion. You actually have a disinterest in this. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it kind of goes into what we say, a loss of a passion can blossom into another one. And so it's good to have a broad spectrum of passions. Be interested in a lot of stuff, And like they always say, a jack of all trades, and you can do that, and
Yeah, I've been through
also,
that. Yeah.
yeah, 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 but like, really find that you might actually be really interested in something that you just had to give a little more time. But when you are completely consumed with just one aspect, one passion, that's great until it's not there anymore. And then you start to realize, oh, what do I do? And so I know for me, some of my unhealthy passions that were definitely like my earlier days were video games and drinking, going out, getting caught up in the mix. And it's kind of crazy, like I don't even call like those passions, they're just like things you do and you get into and you try to find a sense of enjoyment from 'em. But I definitely noticed like video games for me, huge passion. I love playing 'em. My friends are on, we're all getting on. Some I've done since growing up, but I started to realize like what is the value that I'm getting out of it. And so one thing I do now is if I'm on, I am playing, I decide, okay, take a little bit of my time out today to enjoy this. I don't play them throughout the week, weekends only, and I set a timer. I check that timer. So then my whole day doesn't become devoted to what I consider that unhealthy passion. I can now kind of be more mindful in what I'm doing, and so set up so I can get into some of those other quote unquote healthy passions like reading, studying, getting into some material that maybe I, haven't put as much time or invested in. So, Austin, what are some of, the unhealthy passions that you've noticed in your life?
Uh
All right, that's a hard question to ask.
well, it's not so much that it's a hard question to ask as it is like the answer like punches me in the face, and
Yeah.
it describes my love-hate relationship with powerlifting.
Mm,
Um
so true.
Powerlifting is and was it's not as bad now. It's not as bad now. Um but it was bad because, once I got into powerlifting, I don't just do things to just do them. Like I want to be good at them. And so like every time I'd hit a PR now, like this is a whole different conversation on its own, but like, you know, I idolize Dan Green, right? So like every time I would compete, every time I'd hit a PR, I'd be happy for about 5 seconds. Could be like, yeah, just squatted 500 for the first time ever, and then I'm like, but Dan Green squats like 700, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, well, I'm not good enough yet because I'm not squatting like that. Like I wanted to be Dan Green so bad, but now I realize obviously like I was making a comparison. So comparison on its, when the moment you start comparing yourself to other people, that's where it's all over, and nothing will
Yeah.
ever be great because you're just not going to be that person because you're your own unique special person in all the best ways. But that's the thing. It's like, but that created like a super unhealthy passion for me. So like powerlifting became super toxic because I was always chasing something, but no matter what I did, I could have an awesome day, awesome lift. Nothing was ever good enough because
Yeah.
I needed to be the best and I wasn't the best. Or I needed to be among the elites and I wasn't among the elites. The only time that I ever actually got to a level where I'm like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting up there is when I didn't care what happened. Because it was just like, hey, have fun. Like, just do it for the sake of lifting. When I let powerlifting become the only thing, because that's what happened. Like powerlifting became my life. When it became my life and that was the thing that I identified with, like I was a powerlifter through and through, like, I'm eating whatever I want, just get big, get strong, doesn't care. The only thing that matters is how much you're benching, squatting, and deadlifting on a daily basis. And it just became super toxic for me and created like a mindset and an environment for me that was just toxic and awful. And it just like made lifting so unenjoyable for me.
Yeah,
So like, when you just, I think that it goes to show, because this can happen with anything. It doesn't have to be lifting for you. It could be music. It could be like maybe you're an artist and you paint. Like it could be something like that. Like the moment you turn it into something that where you're not just doing it for fun anymore, like, for me, lifting like is fun. That's why we all started like getting into it. It's like seeing yourself progress and getting stronger, and like making all these changes and getting better. Like is fun. Like doing that, hitting a PR, like, oh yeah, like I just did that. That like that's awesome. Like that's fun. But the moment you start making it your life, that's when it starts to not become so fun anymore. And that's when it starts to really like
exactly.
losing it. And that's when like things really start to become like unhealthy. But I mean, but there's other like aspects of like passions that are like unhealthy. And I mean, that would be like, I know Gerard mentioned that he, used to like go out a lot and like party and all that. I mean, I guess that's like different. Like, I don't know, like, is going out and partying like really like a specific passion, or is that just like doing the cool thing to do?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about too. Is it's maybe at the moment you're doing it, it's kind of perceived as a passion or a hobby or just getting caught up in the mix. But it's does it bring you with the definition really as a strong feeling or emotion? It might in the moment when you're getting caught up in it, but is it coming from like an intrinsic place of value, like where you're getting a sense of progress or a sense of fulfilling enjoyment? And so that's why I really think like video games, especially for me, were like an unhealthy passion because man, I love them. They're so fun to play and you get instant gratification. But I also realized how they can just be devaluing and I I hate to say that I ever identified with, video games, but there's definitely a time and place where they took up too much because of, their instant gratification, the reward of them. And so I think this you really hit it right there with powerlifting because just the nature of that sport, it's so great, it's so amazing, and it can do so much for you, but it also it's because of the dedication it takes, it becomes very consuming, and it's very easy to build an identification off of it. And this is, not just that, it's a lot of things. If you identify with, what you're trying to make your career, your job, all just anything, and that's all it is, it's going to start devaluing, and you're going to eventually get to a place where this is no longer bringing you a sense of reward, fulfillment, of joy, of a strong feeling or emotion. It might be a negative emotion,
Yeah.
and then that's when it's becoming an unhealthy passion. And so getting back to a loss of a passion, how that isn't necessarily bad. This is kind of interesting one for me. Um, One thing I used to really be passionate about was comic books. I love comics, Marvel, DC, all different types of characters, especially like shout out to Spider-Man,
Oh,
Wolverine, all
Spider-Man.
those guys.
He's
I
my
know Spider-Man's Austin's favorite dude. Peter
it's not
Parker
even
was my
close.
man growing
Yeah.
up. And I think the reason they have such a strong place in my heart is because my mom knew I always had trouble reading growing up, and so she got them so she could try to help my reading ability, and it worked. It did a really good job. Um, and so then I was able to branch into more traditional reading for schoolwork and stuff, and I got away from the comic books. Growing up, and you're just too old to read comics, yada yada yada. And it was crazy in like the past year, I found a growing passion for them again and seeing their value and seeing, what they did for me and just to be able to enjoy them again. And also how that then has also pushed my passion for reading. I always struggled with reading. Reading was seen as a chore or something you had to do only for school. And now I look forward to every time I get into reading. And so reading has become a passion again. And it's interesting to notice we've had talks, me and Austin, when reading does feel like a chore. It's like, oh, I didn't get through my chapters. Crap, I didn't, get through this much. And that's when we have to kind of help each other recognize that, whoa, 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 it's okay. We'll get to those things. We don't have, it's all right if we don't. We don't have to identify with those.
Yeah, I know. I try to personally. I shoot for 10 pages a day. Similarly to Gerard, I used to read all the time when I was younger, and you know, the point where I got away from reading was when I started playing video games.
Ooh.
Like now that I think about it, that's when I really started to get away from reading. I mean, I have so many books, or had so many books that like I read. Like you'd catch me reading like this. Like I remember this one like Civil War book. It was super interesting. I still remember super random facts about it now, but it's just I used to read so much, and then but similarly to guitar, all these like former passions are just working their way back. And now it's like, but I enjoy them way more now. Like I enjoy reading way more now because I'm reading for fun, because I want to read things that I'm interested in, that I enjoy, and I make it interesting for me. But like, I shoot to read at least 10 pages a day. Uh Depending on how big the chapter is, like if I pick up the book and I'm like, I'm in it, and I'm like, okay, cool, I get a chapter down if I can. Maybe sometimes I'll get more down, but there's also some days where like, I pick up a book and I start reading, and I'm just like, right now is just not. I just can't focus, or like right now this is just not it. And it's like, all right, like and then I like beat myself up about it, and I'm like, no, you just need to chill down, because I think at some points I get too attached to like like you need to read that chapter. No, you don't. Like it's okay. Like you
No.
have to like read because you enjoy it. Don't force yourself to do it, because if you're forcing yourself to doing it, then it's not even fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's stemming into that unhealthy passion, and yeah, it's crazy, man. It's almost like can't even say it's a loss of a passion. It's a loss in the moment where it's no longer, necessarily bringing that, value, that reward. And if, sometimes it's outside of just the disinterest. One of my greatest passions ever is woodworking. I love woodworking. It's something I did for 4 years in high school as an elective. And I got really, really good with it, Adirondack chairs, cabinets, everything. I still have that knowledge and skill set. It's just a lack of the tools and space to do them. Similar to how you are with your guitar equipment going to college. It's like, where am I going to do this? Oh, you need to be studying, focusing on other stuff. It's more important. So now I've had this growing desire to get back into woodworking, get back into this passion. Um, and then another thing I think is good is to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and find things that might actually be new passions. And so for me, those two things have been I took before all of this, quarantine went on, and obviously that's going on. But I took a dance lesson, traditional dance lesson. We're talking rumba, cha cha, the waltz, and the bachata, man. Oh boy, did I look awkward out there. And it was really like unsettling at first. But the second I was able to just kind of let myself be there and realize, I'm learning something, I got a little passion for it. I got a little interest. And swimming has been the other one. Swimming for me has always been a challenge, something that I struggled with. And just because of that, gives me that much more reason to want to get better at it, to want to see progress. There's another thing that was just, bring me a lot of sense of reward as I got through it more. And unfortunately, both of those have kind of come to a halt with all these things going. But rather than getting caught up in that and upset,
But that's why it's
it's led to,
important. Yeah,
yeah,
it's important to
because
have multiple passions, or like different, to be a little bit more like well versed, or well rounded, in that you're interested in other things, because then I'm sure this is going through with like a lot of people right now. The people that truly only identify with the gym, and the gym is their only passion. Well, guess what? The gym's gone now.
yeah,
Now what? What now? Like, what do? You know? And so that's why I'm thankful that I'm like there's other things that I'm interested in. Like I've been taking this time to take guitar lessons and like do a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, and Gerard's been taking time to like read more and study more for like real estate stuff, learn more on like the financial end of the spectrum. So it's like, we've both taken this time and we're like, okay, I mean, like, yeah, this sucks, but like, there's other stuff that we now have time to do that we're like really passionate about. So like, I'm kind of stoked because now I get to do that more. And it made me realize, wow, that's actually like, I really like doing this. And it's really important to me to keep this as a part of my life. So I'm going to, when all of this is over, I'm going to figure out a way to schedule my days better or however I need to do it to keep myself being able to do this.
Yeah, I think that's so true, man. And even related more specifically just to fitness with us losing the gyms, I love some of the creative at home workouts I've had to do and being able to, find a way to keep those and integrate those. Because had the gyms not closed, I probably would have never done the amount of push ups or pull ups or hill sprints, yard sprints, or hiking up a mountain if you just saw the Instagram story. And so it's like, those are things I want to keep doing. I actually really enjoyed those. And also, like you say, finding a way, we'll even get into, some later episodes, how do you schedule your time around training and getting your sessions in? And just being able to set your days up for that, because that's a really challenging thing, especially, I don't know about some of you, but I do. I work 8 to 5. I'm exhausted after 5. So, but there's always a way you can arrange and get something in and to find a way to continue doing these passions. So, also, what are some of your new passions, man? We mentioned guitar, but like, what are you getting into right now?
So it actually goes a little further than just guitar. I fully intend to make and record music. So
Yo, that's
if
awesome.
you're a metalhead, keep your ears open for that. I just need to figure out. Currently, I've been messing around with I bought an audio interface, which is kind of what's facilitating doing this whole podcast in the first place. But I'm also trying to play my guitar into my computer through various amp plugins. And I've been troubleshooting the issues because I have not been getting the sounds or the connections that I want to be getting. So I've been actually learning a lot, and it's actually delved deeper into me learning about audio recording, like mixing, all the different types of equipment, like mics, placements of these things, like the type of equipment, like for your setups. Like, okay, well, obviously I'm having electrical issues. So, like, how do I fix those issues so that they don't affect my audio sounds? And it's been forcing me to learn a whole lot of like really interesting things. But I've also been like taking that into, okay, well, like, more specifically with guitars, like how can I change certain things about the guitars, maybe change certain pickups, certain equipment to elicit more favorable tones for what I'm looking for, or sounds, whatever. When with taking lessons. So I've really been like diving deeper into that as well as just, I mean, reading in general. But it's been really, really interesting because every day I learn something. I'm like, oh wow, this is so crazy. I don't understand any of it. But then I take the time to like read it and learn it, and it's been getting better. I've been learning a lot. I mean, there's still so much to learn. I think it would be really cool though one day. I would like to, and I plan to, record, not just me record, but like actually get into like mixing and hopefully producing of like songs and albums. I think that'd be so freaking cool.
That does, man. That sounds like an awesome passion. I have no doubt that like you're gonna keep doing that and getting through that uncomfortableness, that initial,
Oh yeah,
phase where you are learning something
yeah. I
new.
have conversations with like people that have been playing guitar for like, I mean, I've been playing for like 8 9 years, but most of it was like self-taught, and they'll like say something like, what was that?" And they'll be like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" I was like, "I do not." And it's like, wow, I kind of feel like at times I like feel like I'm like real dumb, but it's like, you would have never known that if you didn't like
Exactly.
learn it or study it in the first place. So I'm just
Mhm.
getting caught up now.
Yeah, and people who are listening to this who are, fitness interested, gym junkies, guys who just remember where you were first at when you first picked up the weights and how unfamiliar that felt. Or if you're getting into it right now and it feels really awkward and unfamiliar, or you're having, challenges with it, know that that is just an initial stage of uncomfortableness, and that's because you're learning, you're growing, And through repetition, not just in the weight room, through repetition in the material you're reading, the guitar you're playing, anything you do, just through continuing repetition, you will grow a familiarity with it, and you can keep that passion alive. So some new passions for me, I've always really wanted to get more in business, especially with Iron Breed, and taking it to the places it needs to go. Investing. I currently work in real estate, so that's always something I want to broaden my knowledge on further, seeing as I'm very new in that as well. Languages and cultures, man, I've always failed at learning a language, especially throughout school. And so I try to take at least to get a little time every morning and devote to it's in between Japanese and Spanish. Not seeing as much progress as I want to, but it's that initial phase, I know. And so those have been some fun things for me, man. And I think the biggest thing is just recognize what is a healthy and unhealthy passion. If it is a healthy passion, recognize when it starts to fall into an unhealthy pattern. And do you identify with your passions?
Yeah, that's so important. You know, what we identify with and what we choose to, make our identity, it's all kind of like how we perceive things. And so when you only have that one thing, and this is where I think, like, kind of circling back on where I think people are like really having these problems right now with like gyms being closed, is that they only identify with lifting in their life. So then when you take that away, it's like, damn, now what? And it's probably leaving, people with a whole lot of uncomfortable situations that they got to sit and work through to figure out, like, well, shit, like when you take away lifting, like, what do I have? That's why I think it's like so important to have something outside of lifting, because the way that you're lifting now, you're not going to be able to lift like that forever. And that's one of those things that I've actually like realized, and this what got me more into music is like, yeah, I might be strong, like really, really strong now, but like you can't tell me in 20 years I'm going to be lifting the same way. I mean, hell, I might have two completely fake knees by then. So I hope, I hope not, but I'm not going to say that it's not possible. Uh, so it's just one of those things where it's like, what you're doing now may not always be forever. So it's not bad to have a secondary interest or something else. Like for me, I realized at some point lifting and bodybuilding, powerlifting is not going to be my number one focus in my life anymore, and it'll smoothly transition into recording music and doing all that stuff because I think it's fun.
Exactly, and who knows? There's going to be so many other things that could come about, and either losses of current passions, like we kind of talked about, or blossoming into other ones. I think really, if you can take anything away from this podcast, is be passionate, have a lot of interests, pursue things that make you feel good. They give you that strong feeling
Oh
of
yeah,
emotion.
it's like the stuff that like makes life worth living. You know,
Yeah, man,
like
that's so
like
true.
there's so much negatives and bad stuff going on that you like just find stuff that you like that makes you happy and just do it. And like, who cares if you like it? That's all that matters.
That's so true, man.
Yeah, I don't know. That just find something that you're passionate about. I'm passionate that you find something you're passionate about. It's true
That's
though. It's true though. You know what I mean? I love having conversations with people where it's, they might be super passionate about painting. And it's like, now I may not know a damn thing about how to paint other than maybe some like Bob Ross videos I watched and like, hey, that cloud looks pretty happy to me, or like no mistakes, happy accidents, right? But like, it's different because when someone's passionate about something, you can tell that they are, and their face lights up and the way they talk about it, their hand gestures, everything. And they're like, man, that's like seeing people that are passionate about shit makes me excited because I'm like, I may not like be a fan of it or support it or like necessarily even like it, but I'm like, you're super passionate about it. I'm like, that's rad. And I'm about that. So like I'm passionate about people being passionate. So like, hey, drop a comment. What are you passionate about? We want to know. Everybody's so different. Well, what are your things that you're into? Maybe there will be something new that we learn that we can check out. Maybe I want to be a cook now. I'm not sure. Like, but maybe somebody has a really awesome food Instagram page. Drop your link in the bio or in the comments. Let us know and be like, wow, that's pretty dope. Maybe I should like learn to cook like that. Could be my next passion. So I don't know. Let us know. What do you think?
I definitely think you should do that. If you find this interesting, we want to know your passions. We want to know what's getting you out there, what's making you interested, and how you've been creative in these hard times. What passions have you found during, quarantine and being able to get through challenging times and difficult situations, and just, really focus on what are your healthy passions? What are your unhealthy passions? And what do you identify with? As always, you can reach us on the Iron Breed Performance Instagram. The link will be in the bottom, I believe. And awesome, give them your Instagram one last time.
You can find me at _Zekman.
And you can find me at GerardLetendre. That's Gerard Letendre. Yes, right. The Frenchman, you'll see a big red beard.
Captain Redbeard. I remember Redbeard from Lock Haven. He's a good guy. But
Yeah.
all right, thank you for tuning in. It has been a pleasure as always. Drop some things you want to hear about in the comments or in the DMs. Either way, we appreciate your support and thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Iron Breed Podcast.